Nathan, you said that Alexis had been a recruit in the Altis Armed Forces.
Yeah, that's right.
So, his decision to leave the army, to join the guerrillas, do you know how that came about?
It's funny, I asked Marcos the same thing once. He just looked at me and shrugged. Later on, I heard their father had been killed in the Civil War, but I don't know. Whatever his reasons, Marcos seemed to have made peace with the fact he wouldn't change his brother's mind. NATO's been busy. Even managed to clear out a few mines. I'm just catching a little downtime at the castle. Great views up here, you know?
No problem. Maybe you've got time to chat.
Sure, welcome break, actually.
Do you know who built it?
The castle? Not exactly. Thing was built sometime around the end of the 9th century. Arabian warlords. But I mean, they only occupied a much older site. It was a Phoenician fortress before that. You know, during the first of the Punic Wars, the Romans laid siege to it 6 long years.
That's some time. Did they capture it?
In a way. The defenders wound up ceding it to Rome, some later treaty. And then, well, it gets even more complicated.
I must say you're quite the historian, Nathan.
Who, me? No, I'm just a parrot. My wife, she sends me all these books, teaches history back home. A professor, actually.
I often read articles about war and video games, the digital battlefield and such. What's your view?
My view? Usually flat on my belly, few inches away from high explosives. I'm just messing with you, Kate. That's the reality these days. In many ways it's become so, I don't know, sanitized. A few pixels on a screen, a drone in the air, and a guy sitting somewhere on the other side of the world, ready to click a button. If there's one thing I remember about Alexis, it was the guy's pickup truck. Thing made a hell of a racket.
And his brother, wasn't he a mechanic? Why wouldn't he fix it?
Oh, believe me, he tried. But that was Alexis, stubborn as a mule. If I'm not mistaken, I'm actually in Alexis' place. He lived just above his workshop.
What's it like now?
Not great. The guerrillas really did a number on it. I don't think you'd ever guess this was once someone's home.
You know, I keep on hearing about the guerrillas, the problems they posed, but it's not quite clear. Are they a sizable force?
Nobody knows. And to be honest, I don't think they do either. It's uneven, inconsistent across the country. I mean, they got cells operating across Alta, Stratus too, but in terms of actual numbers, it's hard to say. Remember the government's drive on renewables?
Oh, I suppose so, yes. Wind and solar power, wasn't it?
Anything that qualified for an EU grant, really. Anyway, during the offensive, the siege of the town, the army pulled the plug.
They cut the power.
Yeah, wrecked some brand new turbines.
Really? And now? Are they repaired?
Yeah, almost. We're still off the grid. Kinda slows things down. Our guys here, they didn't get much rest. Always on the go, 24/7.
Sounds like quite a logistics operation.
Sure, but it was about medical aid, too. Our doctor, he bore the brunt of it.
How so?
Our ambulance. Only a handful of IDAP camps had one. Poor guy had to cover a lot of ground. Folks here, they'd seen some pretty bad stuff during the Civil War. People lost loved ones. It was like a black cloud hanging over everyone. Being in this place back then, you just knew things weren't going to end well. Do you know Mark Cole, Kate?
Our foreign correspondent, yes, of course.
I met him out here just before the ceasefire failed.
That sounds about right. Mark's been toing and froing since the coup back in 26.
The local priest here, Father Georgie, he was moving to an Orthodox mission in the Pacific, one of the Horizon Islands.
Did he ever make it?
Yeah, eventually. Tough guy, though. Decided to stay till all the fighting had ended. Said it was his place. Disaster, though, seemed to follow him everywhere.
The tsunami.
Right. Last I heard, he's been helping out with relief efforts. Special type, too. Very distinctive.
Remnants of the Firefight. The one you've been telling me about.
That's right.
And Alexis